I'd be curious to know about the songwriting for this song and its relationship with the song Time, You and I, which was on Mordecai. As I understand it, Time was largely inspired by a Love International, the festival in Croatia, which is obviously an inspiration that's carried through to at least the name of this song. Is there a connection between those songs at all?
No, there's not at all, actually. And in terms of the festival, it was more, I think it's like the spirit. It was a festival that is run by some friends of mine that we've spent a lot of time at, and it sort of feels like home in a friendship sort of way. And the other part of the festival is the location, because it's set in a beautiful part of Croatia, and so I think that was part of the landscape inspo.
Right.
But yeah, no, maybe energetically there's a relationship between the two, but not from the actual songwriting perspective. It's interesting that like this song development that happens in the studio, it's like they're like beings of their own that kind of take shape. And that particular song, DJ initially wrote the demo for it. He wrote my bass, like a bass line. It's not exactly what I play. It was actually a real challenge for me to take what he did and turn it into my own bass line. Because he writes sort of with me in mind. But yeah, he wrote like a bass line and then chord. And then it kind of like over the course of a week really kind of turned into what it is. And we love it so much, but it was like a real journey kind of from the demo version to what it is now.
Interesting. Yeah. Thinking of the approach of doing more with less, Laura, you talked about in previous interviews viewing creativity as an exercise in playfulness, which to me, playfulness is sort of like defined by not having boundaries so much. So it's a little bit of like a interesting situation to be in of focusing on playfulness, but then trying to put it within the boundaries of relative minimalism. How did you feel working on this album with that mindset?
I mean, I think that it's interesting that you say that, because actually there's so much playfulness within boundaries. Like if you were to draw a circle on the ground and say like, play inside the circle, it's like there's so much to actually explore in there that you actually might find creative, playful corners that you wouldn't find if you didn't give yourself any kind of limitation. Yeah, I mean, there's an exercise in simplicity in the sense that we went back to kind of just bass, guitar, and drums. And there are synths that we are playing, very minimally, but we even stripped back the effect that were used, especially where Mark is concerned, which means that there's actually more freedom for him to explore what he can actually make with just his string. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like by creating a limitation, you realize how much room there is.
Absolutely. Can you think of an example on the album of maybe a moment that you're really proud to have reached that was maybe influenced by that?
Well, actually, I'll talk about this song because we, at the end of the song, we do a fade out because we weren't sure where we were supposed to go from there. And it kind of continues to modulate, and it sort of fades out with this sort of the sentiment that the song kind of keeps playing forever and keeps modulating and keeps getting bigger, and you don't really know where it ends. But in real life, because we are playing the song live, we had to end it. And it became we spent days in rehearsal figuring out how to end this song and still have it feel as epic as the recording does, but end it. And so we ended up at the end, we modulate one more time, and then we go into a waltz. And it's sort of like, what can you do with just 3 people on stage to make a change that's still just as impactful as like continuing to go on. And it was like changing the timing. And so it's sort of like we're not adding anything, we're not doing any crazy tricks, we're just playing our instruments, but it's still creating that real you know.
Nice.